All right, Elijah, let's take a look at your paper. Mla Format first. One thing that we really need to address, you got a space issue there. You don't need any commas here. You're missing your last name and page number up here. Week title, which needs to be a space in between here and here, just like that. Okay, this is your major one, which I'm going to fix for you. Okay, everything needs to be left justified. Okay, and then once we have that, we're going to tab over. We're going to tab over. We're going to tab over. So it actually looks like a paper and not some randomness. Okay, so that's better. That's what we want it to look like. We'll get into more stuff later. Okay, so your first two paragraphs actually look like all of the introduction. So although maybe you're trying to do, I don't know. Okay. So you jump right into Macbeth, which you haven't introduced him at all. You just jump right into it. So that's something you're going to need to fix too. Because you already talk about Macbeth, but you don't talk about the play, who wrote it, nothing. So start with an attention grabber. Maybe it's a quote. Maybe it's a fact about mental illness. Maybe it's an example about somebody who struggles with depression. I don't know what it is, but you definitely need something here to get the reader into the play or into the topic. Okay, it has led him to serve the ultimate penalty, because you're jumping right into the topic. Throughout the play, comma, Macbeth struggled to be sane and shows to have a mental illness. So he struggled to be sane and makes clear to the reader that he has a mental illness. You got a space issue here. You have a run-on sentence here. Actually, this is more of a sentence fragment here. All these symptoms together consequently led to Macbeth's downfall. Remember, every time you have Macbeth, you got to capitalize it. But then in this paragraph, this almost seems like a lot of introductory material. In the play Macbeth, which you're doing finally in the second paragraph, the Dark Ages taking place. People didn't know what certain disorders were. Depression is an illness many people have. This is not the right use of a semicolon, not capitalization either. You got space issues here. So he has certain signs of depression. It's where you can't use you. You got space issues here, space issue here. That's the wrong way to spell saddened. As Macbeth, again, not capitalized, commits his first crime, killing the king, he starts to worry. So this is kind of actually, I'll dump this down for you, okay? This is kind of actually now starting to talk about anxiety. So this is really your first body paragraph. And really, these two paragraphs should be put together. So your introduction, attention getter, expand on it, introduce the topic, including the author and play, introduce the main points, and then have your thesis statement. Because all of this stuff is stuff that should be in the introduction. So this is all about anxiety, I'm assuming. He can't stop thinking about when he will call. He starts fearing that he'll be punished for what he has done. I'd love to see a quote from the play. Remember, you're supposed to have outside sources from the play. This is what triggered his depression, which, again, that should be an introduction thing. Everything that happened after the death of the king is what took Macbeth downhill, leading to his ultimate demise. That sounds like a thesis statement, so should that be part of the introduction? I'm not sure. So then you go on with a quote right after the Prince of Cumberland. Malcolm is named king. That's not about, you got that from the play. I'm not sure why that's in there, unless you were telling yourself that you need a quote about mental illness. So again, we have Macbeth capitalization problems. But again, we need a strong topic sentence. What is this paragraph even going to be about? What are you going to try to prove in it? And I don't see that yet. All right. I'm not exactly sure what symptom this is supposed to be about. And I'm not even sure you know what you're doing, because you kind of jump around a little bit. because you're going back to he feared that he would get caught, which you talked about in the last paragraph. Although the reader cannot sense much fear in Macbeth, but after he kills the king, I sense a lot of fear in him and anxiety in him, so I'm not exactly sure what that means. You got space issues here. He is fearing of people knowing his darkest actions. Give me a quote then from the story that backs that up. This is a throwaway sentence. It does nothing for your paper. This is trying to be a transition, but I don't know where you're going, so you got to be really clear with where you're going. Okay, now we finally get to maybe anxiety, which I'm not sure what symptoms you were talking about up here, but we're now getting into anxiety. All right. So one of many symptoms of depression is anxiety. You got space issues all over the place, Elijah. You got to go back through and fix that. And then just a lot of, you have capitalization errors here. You have no outside sources. He develops his symptoms when he takes his lead in the ranks by committing crimes. He noticed people were catching on to his plan. Who did he know was catching on to his plan? Because he doesn't know Banquo knows about it. He only kills Banquo because of Fleance on the prophecies. He doesn't, I guess he thinks Macduff might be catching on to him, but he doesn't really outright state that. He just doesn't trust him. But you don't make that connection either. Macbeth worried and has some fear caused by anxiety. Mental pain to skyrocket. What does that mean? He caused him to make poor choices, which, okay, but what poor choices? His stress took him to listen to Lady Macbeth. What does that mean, took him to listen? When he did so, he killed multiple people. How does this have to do with anxiety? It ruined the last of his time. I'm not sure what that means. Okay, so obviously we need some more focus in that paragraph. All right, so in your conclusion is restate your thesis statement, go over your main points, and then end on a clincher statement. So in this last paragraph, I don't know, you're kind of just saying a bunch of random things. You have capitalization errors, you have space issues. He dug himself in a deep hole, but then you go into if he didn't see the witches, which isn't what the paper's about. They gave him a different mindset. He created his own fate, which again is not what your paper's about. He created his own depression, which you never really touched on too much. You can't use your in your paper, and you use it like 4 times in here. You're going to lose points for that. Every time you use you or your, you're going to lose points. Every time you would create a crime, that's not really usually the verb you would use. Mental illnesses are no joke. Well, again, that's not what your paper is really about, is it? Took him down a road to certain death, space issues. All right, you do have a works cited page. Now remember, a works cited page means you're telling me you are citing these works in your text. I don't see any information from these sites. Oops. So if you actually did consult these sites, that means up here you should have some citation, which I don't see. Remember, your works cited needs to be alphabetical. Remember, every second line needs to be indented like this. I mean, you did a good job putting them in. Obviously, that's got highlights to it that don't need to be there, but it needs to be its own page as well. All right, Elijah, here's what I'm going to tell you. You really need to look back at the assignment sheet that has the organizational pattern to this essay, and you need to follow that to a T. This paper is just not organized correctly at all. Nothing is really in the order that it should be, and you're just missing a lot of information. So you need to go back, really look at how to organize this paper, what should be where and how it should be. Figure out your introduction, what actually belongs in your introduction before you get into the symptoms. Figure out your external sources, all of that stuff. There just needs to be a lot of work done. And I know paper writing, it probably is kind of difficult for you, but it definitely needs a lot of work. So come talk to me, come get my help, and I'll try to help you out as much as I can. Looking forward to a rewrite.